Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Kingdom Entrepreneur. I am so excited about the guest I'm going to share with you today. If you don't know about him, you're going to learn, just as I have, as the more I've known about him, how much I respect and appreciate David Miller. And when you learn about his journey, it's going to both encourage you, equip you, and inspire you to lead differently and to build a business differently than maybe you've thought before. I want to welcome David Miller. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. And David, just to kick us off, what's one thing that is contrarian to the normal thinking about leadership and building a business that you've practiced that's just been really important for you as you've led over the years?
Well, I see you're going to start with the easy question first, Brad. Thanks a lot for the...
I do what I can.
I was thinking about that for just a moment. You know, blocking and tackling is really important in any business, whether it's sports or not, but doing the basic things right, doing the right things the right way for the right reasons. But one thing I find to be a little unusual that seemed to have worked for me throughout the years, whether I'm in the medical equipment industry or the leadership development industry or in the political arena where I found myself for a while, is harmony. You talk a lot about balance in life. Well, I got to have work-life balance. You know, how do I balance my profession with my family, with my community service, my church work, or whatever? So I'm teaching a leadership class one day, actually facilitating more than teaching. And at the very end of a one-year series with a group of young bankers, one of the men said, "Mr. Miller, you say a lot about balance in our lives. I've come to find out that the word harmony is a better word to use, because you can't really just set aside your faith. You can't set aside the argument you had with your wife when you get to work, or you can't set aside that. But how can you get those different things in your life integrated and sort of on the same hymnal page book, if you will?" I had another person tell me not long ago that he is interested in integrating his business with his faith and with his family, his personal life, and so forth. And when you think about the word integrate, it's the same word that's related to the root word of integer, a math word. An integer is a whole number versus a fraction, which is a number that's been divided. Think about segregated versus integrated. If you're segregated, you're divided, right? Well, the word integrity comes from exactly the same Latin root word. It means not divided. So if we're going to be men and women, leaders that are attractive, that people want to follow, I think we need to have the integrity, in other words, being wholehearted people, at the same time understanding the need, not for balance so much, but for harmony in our lives. Because when people go home, maybe the dog got run over, maybe the kid got cut from the baseball team, maybe the kid won the track meet. There's a lot of celebration as well as suffering. So to me, that seems, I don't know if that's contrarian. I just think it's rather rare that a business leader would provide that kind of latitude to the people that work with him.
I want to come back to the balance and integrated, as you talked about it, in just a little bit. But for people who don't know you, I know 60 seconds isn't enough, but give us a brief overview, because you talked about really at least three very distinct roles that have been a part of your life. And so share with us a little bit about who David Miller is and what you've done and what you're doing now.
Be glad to. Well, first, I was born at a very early age in Roswell, New Mexico, of all places. And some people say, "Oh, so where the aliens landed, that's where you came from." And maybe so. But I moved to Lubbock with my family when I was only 10 years old. Graduated from Monterey High School and Texas Tech, and then immediately entered the medical equipment field with my family. My mother and dad had a retail medical equipment store. We expanded that to locations in Lubbock, Dallas, and Houston, and were relatively successful. Didn't become rich off of it, but we did help a lot of people who needed physical assistance, whether it's wheelchairs, oxygen equipment, and so forth. We sold that business, and I joined an organization called the MED Group. MED is an acronym for Medical Equipment Distributors. We were a network of independently owned retailers across the nation that became a group purchasing organization. So we would combine the volume of all these independently owned companies negotiate contracts with manufacturers for better freight terms, better discount payment terms.
Okay.
And then the med group would carve a small percentage off of that. So if you're doing $1 billion worth of business and you can save somebody 10%, they'll gladly pay you 2 or 3% for having
Right. Okay.
created that. God called me out of that, and that's another longer story we have time for, to do something that he wouldn't tell me what it was. And that this voice haunted me over and over that said, just walk away and I'll take care of you. Well, I didn't want to walk away, Ray, because I was loving what we were doing.
Right.
I felt we had a little ministry in that business, helping the disabled community all across the nation. When I took that job, we had 27 locations. When I left there 20 years later, we had 800 locations in this business.
Massive growth.
None of which we owned, by the way. That was the relief. I didn't have to worry if the door was locked at night or not. But it grew into a very nice business. So I turned in my resignation, flew to Chicago to meet with our board of directors and our investors. And I turned in my resignation, and they said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I have no earthly idea. God's just been telling me to walk away and he'll take care of me. Well, he always has taken care of me. And not long after that, we formed an organization, a 501c3c nonprofit called Spirit Ranch, where in 10 years, we have 30,000 people go through our leadership and team development program. Spirit Ranch is just north of Lubbock. It's still an entity, but we don't do leadership development out there anymore. But it's a great restaurant. The Escondido Grill is there, and it's an event center as well.
Okay.
I lost my wife in 2012 to lymphoma, remarried 4 years after that, and upon marrying Catherine, we moved to Horseshoe Bay, Texas, where we are now. Not where we are now, but where we live now.
Right.
And I've continued to do leadership development and coaching for executives really all over the United States. So that's my two careers, really. And then I was mayor of Lubbock for 1 2-year period. The voters really liked me all the first time around. And 2 years later, they really didn't like me. And so I guess I didn't have enough harmony with the voters.
Well, and you illustrate a point about even then that you serve. And when you serve people for their good, it's okay, because sometimes not everybody appreciates it that way. I saw a little meme recently that said, if you want to make everybody happy, don't be a leader, run an ice cream truck.
There you go. There you go. There's a lot of truth to that. And I'm not going to call it tough love, because it wasn't that, but there were some difficult decisions to be made, as there is in any position, whether it's private or public, like a political office, that somebody's not going to be happy with that decision. And yet you do in your heart of hearts, as well as hopefully in your head of heads, what is best for the community. I had no political agenda, and there were those who did.
Right.
And they used that in such a way to get another guy elected, and good for him.
Right.
God put me where he wanted me to be.
Yeah. And that right there is a powerful lesson, to just say, I'm going to serve God where I am today and trust him to do it. Along that storied career that's really about expanding your family business, and then Med Group, Spirit Ranch, how incredible, 30,000 people served. And we don't have time for you to share the story about how you see it this way, and God says, David, I've got something bigger and better. But along that, maybe the bigger and better theme, but also the lessons. Have there been some moments in your journey where God really taught you something came up, or you had this awareness, and it's like, this made a huge change in the way I lead and the way I view the company and the people we serve?
Yeah, I can think of one or two for sure. Athletics has always been my passion. Athletics has never been my talent.
Yeah.
And so, having gotten cut from the basketball team in 8th grade, rightfully so, having tried out for every sport in high school, run for student council, body offices, all these things came with a resounding no, which sent a message to my little heart, these arrows that the enemy shoots in, said, well, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not tall enough, you're not athletic enough. And then as an adult, well, I guess you're not rich enough, or you're not famous enough, or whatever. Those are all lies. And they're lies, frankly, that I tell myself, or told myself. Jesus says I am enough.
Amen.
And I will accept that as the trump card for all of those other voices that come up. But I can remember being at the Wild at Heart boot camp in January of 2005, and walking down the lane one snow-covered night. It's just beautiful. I can still see the snow in the trees, glistening off a meadow down below me. And Wild at Heart is a book written by John Edwards, and it's about how God is calling us men to be men as we're supposed to be. And those wounds from the enemy often say, no, you really aren't good enough. Well, one of the things John Eldredge says is that God gives people new names. So Saul became Paul, right?
Okay.
Abram became Abraham.
Right.
Was it Joshua or Jacob that became Israel?
Yeah, Jacob.
Jacob became Israel. And so he says, why don't you ask God to give you a new name?
Okay.
Well, the pride David said, I'm fine with my name, just like it is. Thank you.
Being David.
So imagine I'm walking down alone, this snow-covered lane in Colorado. And I said, I'm talking to the creator of the universe.
How incredible is that?
And I'm saying, well, if you want to give me a name, I guess it'd be okay. Like I
give you my permission, right? Yeah.
And immediately the voice came and said, you are messenger.
Okay.
Really, Lord? You want me, the guy that couldn't get elected to a student council body, that lost the presidential race for my fraternity, that couldn't make the team, the girl that got away? You want me to be your messenger? Well, within 16 months, I was mayor of Lubbock and I was speaking to thousands of people. Spirit Ranch was formed about 8 months after that, and thousands of people came there. I did one-on-one coaching, I did group facilitation, and every time I get a chance to appropriately deliver the message of Jesus Christ, without a lot of Bible thumping or scripture quoting, but to tell stories about how Jesus has changed lives, I do so. Yeah. That was a big turnaround for me because I'd always been not a secret Christian, not a denier, but a little uncomfortable with really sharing my faith. I'm still not in your faith. I'm not the guy that'll sit next to you on the airplane and bend your ear about Jesus for an hour's flight. But I will be expressing an interest in you and say, well, what's your story? Tell me, give me your rose from this last week. What's the best thing that's happened to you in the last week? Well, my grandson won that track meet and I couldn't believe I was there to see it. Really? Roses come along with thorns. What's something tough that's happened to you? Well, unfortunately, my sweet wife was diagnosed with cancer and I'm really having a struggle dealing with that. And then you just listen. I think Jesus did a lot more listening than he did talking, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And he asked good questions too. When somebody was talking to him, he asked good questions. And you highlight, I think it's a really important leadership principle. Leaders are prone to not necessarily bark, but give a lot more instruction.
Absolutely.
And not listen so well, and even listening open, but asking questions that really invite people into leadership and to growth. Yeah. How do you use that in the different stages of your life, the different roles, ministries, business, and Spirit Ranch and Mayor of Lubbock? How has listening been important to you, and what's been a product of that?
One of the myths of being a leader has to do with you need to be the one speaking. You need to, you're the smart one, right? You've got the information, you've got the vision of the company or the organization, whatever it is. So I'm sitting in our conference room one day at the Med Group. I've got my leadership team around me, wonderful people, smart people. Always hire somebody smarter than you.
Yes.
Or as Patrick Lencioni says in the book, The Ideal Team Player, hire somebody that's hungry, humble, and smart.
Yeah. What a great book, yes.
So I had these people sitting around me, and I could tell there was something in the air that day. So I opened the meeting up, and I looked at a young lady that just was evidently the appointed spokesperson for the group. I said, okay, what's going on today? Said, David, you've hired us to do jobs, and we have proven ourselves able to do those jobs. Yet you've become a bottleneck because you want to be involved in every single decision with good intention.
Sure.
But every decision, whether it's a new marketing plan, a new contract we're signing, a new education and training program, a new building lease, it has to come through you. And we're large enough now that you become a chokehold on these decisions. Right. So I got my little feelings hurt and I backed off. I said, well, okay, if that's the way you want it to be. So I let the pendulum swing way too far the other direction. And then it corrected. It came back to the middle. And within a year, we doubled the profits of already, fortunately, a very profitable company because I listened and I didn't just delegate, I trusted. And if we get to talk about this book, The Four Cornerstones, later, this business about trust, you guys, is much more than just not lying to somebody or them not lying to you. Honesty is obviously one of the important parts of being trustworthy. But once I learned to get out of people's way and let the horses run, so to speak,
right.
Amazing things happen in that little company of ours.
So I want to follow up this way. In your coaching, working with a lot of business owners and leaders, how common is it to not really listen well, and so miss out on some of those huge shifts and learnings? And then let's go ahead and talk about your book, which is also based on your coaching company, Cornerstone Coaching.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that challenge to not listen, and then about the Four Cornerstones and the Capstone.
Okay. Well, if I remember correctly, there's three kinds of listening. There's empathic listening, where you're really tuned in. I mean, you're focused and you're not only hearing the words, you're trying to read the meaning into what people are saying.
Right.
The second kind is static, just like static on your radio. Well, yeah, I'm still typing this email over here while the phone's ringing, and oh yeah, you're here in my office. And so there's a lot of static going on, so you don't hear it. And then the other is just totally deaf. You're just uninvolved. You're not paying attention at all. Empathic listening requires not only some discipline, but some real true respect for the other people. They are worthy of hearing, of being listened to. And so you ask, how often is that a problem? I would say it's more of a problem than it's not, quite frankly. And not just for leaders that have a title. I'm talking about husbands and wives in their homes, parents with their children, students with their teachers, interviewers with their interviewees. If we're not careful, we get so wrapped up in what our next thought is.
Right.
I'm a terrible interrupter. You'll be making a point and I'll finish your sentence for you. I've become better because my sweet wife, Catherine, has bruised me enough to let me know.
She's giving you learning opportunities.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We want to think about what our next thought is. Okay, well, I wish they'd hurry up with their thought, because I've got a thought too that I need to. Or I get in a hurry and say, okay, that's fine. Let's talk about that later. Now I want to talk about what has come to the table. So having empathy, empathic listening, I think is really a critical choice for people to make. So about this book, it's called The Four Cornerstones and the Capstone. I think I gave one to you, my mother, before she died. So I'm looking for my third reader.
One of you needs to order it right now.
And you can get it on Amazon, seriously, The Four Cornerstones and the Capstone. And what I've learned is all the John Maxwells in the world, who I love, all the Henry Clouds, the Jim Collins, how do you top those guys? You just don't. But sometimes I just felt like there was just too much to try to absorb as a leader. And this was as a mature man, not as a young 20, 30-year-old leader. I'm talking about someone in their 50s and 60s that were still trying to learn. And I found, for example, John Maxwell wrote this one book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I think that's what it's called.
Yes.
As 21, I can't remember what after
one. But you got this.
So I decided not to compile, but to distill all these leadership qualities into just four things. Those four things are trust, understanding, freedom, and unity. And if we have a minute, I'll take off
a little
bit, and you interrupt me anytime.
No.
If you have permission to interrupt, it's different than if you're interrupting without that. Well, I mentioned earlier, trust is much more than just being honest with each other. So to me, there are these four things, and there's four things on each of the four cornerstones that help make those things complete. Number one is wholeheartedness. We do need to be men and women of integrity. So it means not just being honest, it means being creative. It means being wise enough to shut up and sit down when you need to, but bold enough to stand up for what you believe in. And so it's being the complete person, a whole person. Well, how can I be a whole person at work and have anything left in my tank when I go home for my kids and my family? And the answer is, every smart person I know has a little reserve in their gas tank. And so save something, save some of that energy, some of your creativity, especially if you've got children at home. They deserve it, y'all. In fact, you'll never get that chance again once they're up and out. And so to be a wholehearted leader, I think, is the first part. To not just be trustworthy, but to be able to trust someone. Number two is competence. If you ask me to go to Italy and compete in the downhill skiing, I'd give it my best shot. But I'm not competent, nor am I capable, for that matter, of doing the downhill. Now think about this for a minute. Let's say you hire somebody who is humble, hungry, and smart, and you give them a task or a project, and you just know they're capable because you've seen the work they've done before you ever hired them. But they have not been educated, oriented, trained in the method needed to do this project for your organization. So they're capable, but they're not yet competent. How dare we give someone a job and then hold them accountable or even terminate their employment for not doing the job, for giving them work that they were not competent to do? Well, my point is you can't trust me to do something I'm not competent to do, not because I'm not honest, but because I can't do it.
Okay, right.
Third element is alignment. If I'm going north and you're going south, or if I'm going northeast and you're going northwest, we may have two great parallel ideas that are not parallel, and we'll end up just getting wider and wider apart. So I like to use the analogy of train tracks.
Okay.
They have to be parallel. They have to stay parallel, or else you got a train wreck on your hands. So if one person is going one direction, one going another, then probably trust is going to be damaged there. And then the last part is production. Sooner or later, there's a bottom line. You've got to produce a product, a result, a service, or whatever. There's a lot of coaches that get fired, and they were wholehearted. They were perhaps competent. And they were certainly aligned with winning,
right?
But they couldn't produce a winning team, and therefore we couldn't trust them
right.
to deliver for us. What are your thoughts on trust?
I appreciate the perspectives that you gave, and really, as I love the analogy, the train track, that you could even be really, really close, and just a slight variation, and for a while it runs and it runs smoothly.
Yes,
but you finally do, and you have a derail, and it's not that there was intent.
No,
it's just it just wasn't clear. And then I really appreciated the part about capacity. You have the capacity, but if you're not equipped, even I do some coaching as well,
sure.
And so in the let's hold people accountable. And I've encouraged, you can't really hold someone accountable. You can hold them to their own accountability. You can ask about their own accountability, but I can't force you to do something. And then if they're not trained, then is it because you don't trust them or you've not trained them? And if you trust them and you've not trained them, fire you. Right. But if you really trust them, then train them, invest into them so that they can. And then, so I love the dimensions of trust that you talk about, because it gives some breadth, and it's like, oh, wait, if I'm really going to trust you and if you're really going to trust me, here are the components. And I think you can make a decision to trust, but to continue to trust, those things have to be in place. So, yeah.
Well, you use two key words there: decision. Trust is a choice. I either can or I can't, or I won't or I will.
Right.
But number two, you use the word invest. Unless you're willing to invest in someone's training, education, upbringing, whatever it might be, invest in the relationship, probably trust is going to be a difficult. I did think another analogy of alignment. You know, when your wheels get a little out of line on your car, all of a sudden vibration starts. It's a very uncomfortable with the steering wheel. Well, over time, your tires are going to be shot, and your shocks are going to be shot because they were not in alignment. So it's pretty important. And raising 3 kids like Jane Ann and I did, and now a wonderful adult stepdaughter that Catherine and I have, you better be in alignment as parents. And if you're not, go to the room by yourself, out of earshot from the kids, and align yourself. And gentlemen, let me give you a hint. Whatever the wife wants, you might want to consider it pretty seriously, because they have a lot of wisdom, I can assure you. But the second cornerstone is understanding. And I used to say that trust is number one. Until you have that, all the rest don't matter. Now I say there's a tie for first place between trust and understanding, because they feed into each other. The word that I've substituted understanding for was communication. You've got to have good communication. Well, what if I start communicating in gibberish or in a foreign language, or using acronyms for an industry that you've never been in? I'm communicating, I'm transmitting, but you're not receiving.
Right. Okay.
So I'm now using the word understanding. The first thing we have to do is discover. We can discover things like we're doing right now. In an interview like this, via video, we can Google things, we can research it, we can go to seminars, we can just listen. But you have to have input before you can understand something. I believe that the second step in truly having understanding is to parrot it back to the person that's informing you. Meaning, when you and I arranged this interview today, this podcast, you said, how about we do this on this date, at this time, at this place? I then, if I'm going to clarify, I would say, so you're saying we'll do it at this time, on this date, in this place? And the answer is yes. So there's clarification, but that's not enough, y'all. What if it's not a good day for me? I could then ask Ray, well, what about this day instead? Well, in fact, we did it today. We moved this. I had to text Ray and say, I'm running late because of another meeting. Would it be okay? You could have said, no, David, that doesn't work for me today. How about tomorrow? But you then give people the opportunity to have input into the final decision of whatever you're going to do. But here's the one that we fail at so many times, and that is confirmation. We have to confirm what we have agreed upon. And this is especially important if we're going to hold someone accountable to get them to take ownership for a job. And I'm going like this because I'm going to illustrate an accountability graph here in a minute. How dare I fire? I won't name him. His first name was Jess. This goes back at least, you guys, do my math, 40 years.
Wow. Okay.
How dare I fire him? When I was thinking one thing was his responsibility, he was thinking another, and over, he couldn't perform what I wanted to be performed. So I just let him go. Mm-hmm. And then it dawned on me way after the fact, that's on me, not on poor Jess. Mm. So to confirm what our understanding is, they're all 4 important steps. And you know what? Mm-hmm. Why do we sign leases when we rent an apartment? Why do we sign contracts when we make a deal with someone? Right. Why do you send an email to confirm something or send a calendar invitation? It is to confirm this is what we agreed upon. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have those two, oh, by the way, if there's a misunderstanding, it sure does hurt the trust, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, we got to go back and work on trust now because we're out of alignment on what we understood. But if you build back the understanding, you can then rebuild the trust. And now you're ready to go forward to Cornerstone 3, which is freedom. Okay. Now, why would I pick the word freedom? Because now then we're free to hold one another accountable, to get people to take ownership of what they agreed to do. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They're free to hold us as leaders accountable too. Yeah. David, you said you'd provide this resource for me. You said we'd hire another person by now. Mm-hmm. You said the budget was X and it's only half X. Mm-hmm. If we have trust, real trust, and we have a clear, confirmed understanding, you have every right to have that two-way street, right? To hold each other. And you do it more as partners as you do the old third base coach thumping you in the chest through the stop sign at third base, you know. The second thing you're allowed to do is to be innovative and creative and do things differently. Now, free, as long as it falls within the parameter and the framework of the understanding. If we have our boundaries, I can do whatever you want to in this little sandbox. Right. Oh my gosh, you can do it better that way? Well, fantastic. Good. And by the way, if you're going to do that, you're free to make errors. You're free to experiment, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And there's no penalty for that. In fact, the Post-it note was created by a couple of chemical engineer type people that created that sticky stuff that wouldn't stick. And the 3M company today still pays cash rewards for innovative mistakes. So those two guys, you go online, by the way, if you want a really good story, look up Post-it note history on the internet, and it'll tell about the two chemists that created the Post-it note, which was quite an accident. It was a failure, actually. And now it's the largest selling product unit of the 3M company. Wow. Okay. You're now free to have fun because you're working in this environment where there's a clear, confirmed understanding. You can be innovative and creative. You can take ownership. And it's a business about accountability. If you have a clear, confirmed understanding, and this is point A, and somewhere up here is the expected results, down here are the actual performance. If there's a gap here, you're free to call that out really early on. So, wait just a minute. I think we're off a little bit. But just like driving a car, if you get just a little off course, fine, just steer it back. In fact, I drove here from Horseshoe Bay yesterday. I have no idea now in my subconscious. I made a million little bitty course corrections. Right. Okay. But if I'm not paying attention and I'm starting to run off the road, now it's a big course correction. Panic. And that car can flip. If you wait till the gap is this big on accountability, now then you've got a crisis in your leadership and you've got to deny the promotion. You can't make the increase in salary. And if push comes to shove, you have to give that person what I like to call opportunities for other employment. Okay, that's the nice way to say it. Yeah. In other words, if you have to end that relationship, well, don't do that. Don't wait till I hear, especially if there's a young leader listening to this. I know it's uncomfortable. Just like learning to ride the bike the first time, you're going to fall a few times, but now you do it as second nature. I often ask people, describe to me brushing your teeth. I said, what are you talking about? Just do it. I said, okay, well, tell me, walk it through me step by step. So, well, first I put the toothbrush underneath the toothpaste. I said, wait a minute, where was the toothbrush to begin with? Was it, so you go back, the same thing's true. Holding people accountable takes practice.
Okay.
And the more often you do it, the better you're going to come about it. But remember to keep your heart. You're talking to another human being who's got a mortgage, they got a car payment, they got a kid in college, and now then it's not just their career, their life is on the line and it's in your hands to make sure you're holding them accountable appropriately.
Right.
Okay.
Great.
Fourth Cornerstone, I wish I had a favorite. They're all my favorites.
The one you're talking about is your favorite.
Boy, that's a good way to look at it. The fourth and final cornerstone is unity. That's really, it's the last it's in the semifinals of results. Okay. If you have those first three, trust, understanding, and freedom in place, here's what's happened with unity. First of all, you can give people grace.
Okay.
If you're going to give people permission to make mistakes as they're being innovative, we need to cut people some slack. Y'all, we're humans. We're all screw-ups, if you will, excuse me, but we are just a bunch of monkeys warping around, making one mistake after another. I'm the greatest needer of grace, and so I love receiving it. Seems like to me the right thing to do is pay it forward, to pass it. So cut some slack. Forgive people. We've been forgiven, and it seems like the right thing to do as much as within your capability to forgive others. The second thing you have is compassion. The word "con" or the prefix "con" means with or together.
Okay.
The word passion can have several meanings. One of them is suffering. Remember the movie that Mel Gibson did, The Passion of the Christ?
Right.
Well, it was suffering. If you're unified, you can suffer together and come through a difficult situation, a downturn in business. When my sweet wife passed away, my three children and I, who were already close, grew even closer together because we were suffering together, and we made it through that grief period of time because of the unity that we had.
Right.
By the way, one of the things that Jesus prayed in John 17 in the garden before he was betrayed was, Father, may all those that follow after me, including us alive today, 2,000 years, may they be as you and I are one. Why did he want unity? Why didn't he pray for no cancer or no car wrecks or what? Because he knew that there was weakness and division and there's strength in unity, which I will tell you is one of the things that being a unified force at your workplace or in your church or your community, in your politics, is if you're unified, you're stronger. The cord of three strands is not easily broken. It is so true. And there's one other element to unity that it's escaping me right now, but there is a capstone.
Okay.
So imagine you're building the foundation of anything. So building is a physical structure. It's easy to make. You have a capstone at each of those four corners. A cornerstone at each corner. Well, a celebratory stone that used to be laid is the capstone. It's the last stone laid, and it means it's complete.
All right. Okay.
My capstone, y'all, is joy. If you work in a place where there's trust, understanding, freedom, and unity, don't you think that's a pretty cool place to go to work every day?
For sure.
Because it's not just happiness. There's a deeper feeling of inner joy at that place, which includes things like contentment and confidence and completion. Those things come into being. And when that's not there, you know where you go? Back to trust. You start working on that again.
Okay.
You make sure you have clear understanding, confirmed understanding. Now, that may be a long explanation for a little book, but I'm telling you, it puts all these wonderful leadership concepts into a funnel and brings them down. Do you trust me, and can I trust you? Do we have a confirmed understanding? Have I given Ray the freedom to edit this as he wants to in this podcast? Absolutely. If that makes it better for you, you go for it. And if you and I are unified as leadership coaches, we're going to touch a lot more lives than if we're out trying to compete with one another and knock each other down all the time. But my goal, every time I have a new client, I've got 2 new clients come up, one down in Beaumont, Texas, and one in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My goal for them, starting a year with each one of them, is their joy. I want them, as Paul wrote in one of his letters, I write this so that your joy may be complete.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. That was just a master class. If you're paying attention as a leader, that was a master class on really some very practical things. Sometimes we get all these great ideas and it's like, okay, how do you actually do that? But David, thank you so much for really giving us four that result in great joy, four things to do that result in great joy. And I wish this could go on. We could go for hours. I remember the last time we visited, we went to lunch and I'm like, I think I'm hijacking your whole day.
It's 3 o'clock now.
It was. I had, I think, 3.5 pages of questions I wanted to ask you. So I think if you're up to it, I'd love to have you back on in the future because what great experience and observations comes with years and years of doing this. And one of the things I appreciate about you is you're honest enough. It's like I don't have to protect myself. You just say, hey, here's a place where I learned it the hard way. I made the mistake, and I'm better, and I'm growing. But I also believe I'm going to keep growing. And so, as we already said, you can look on Amazon and get the Cornerstone and the Capstone. I want to encourage you to do it. It also has a devotional for every week. I'm going to tell you, I cheated and read all. I didn't read them all at once, but I'm like, oh, that's good and that's good. And I keep your book on my desk now to go back and open it up. Well, yeah, just thank you for doing it, and I appreciate what you said that so much has been written, but you haven't. You didn't do it, and this is how God's worked in you and through you, and it's not. I think I know you well enough already to know it's not about you. It's not to go, hey, David Miller, this, you just need to listen to me, but that it is sharing your experience for the benefit of others. And so thank you for doing that.
You're more than welcome. You get poured into, guys. We're vessels, get poured into. If you never pour back out, then there's this overflow that just gets wasted. So talk about capacity. Take an 8-ounce cup and a 12-ounce pitcher. You got to pour out sometimes. So, by the way, each of those 52 little weekly devotionals, they're just all stories that have a biblical reference and then a challenge, an action. Okay, now that you know this, what are you going to do about it? This is a deal called Kingdom Factor. I'm going to leave this with you.
Okay, thank you.
Kingdom Factor is a national organization that combines faith, family, and your career. And it's a safe place where men and women can come together and weave those together rather than saying, well, this is just a Bible study. Let's not talk about business. Or this is business. Let's not let Jesus into this conversation. This is a safe place where a half a dozen or a dozen men and women can get together. And I'm going to leave this with you because I'm putting together groups right now in Lubbock to see if they want to do something like that. So that was a non-paid advertisement, by the way, and it may hit the cutting room floor.
No, it won't. It will not at all.
What an honor to be with you today and your audience. By the way, let your audience decide. They may not want me back,
Well, I already know, and so I know you will. I can't wait to hear your feedback and share on social media, or you can text, email, message me the things that really impacted you. I've appreciated many of you doing that already. And David, really look forward to having you back on. And so want to thank you for watching, joining us today, whether it's online for YouTube or Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. I want to encourage you to subscribe to whichever one of those or all of them that you do, your feedback. And then really it's about this. If I could just get you to do one thing, if you would share this with friends, with those that other leaders, whatever capacity that is, leading at home, leading in the business place, the church place, in the community, wherever it is, we're all called to lead. And want to leave you with this reminder. It is his kingdom and it's your calling. And what a great opportunity to serve the King of Kings.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
You bet.
Yes.